A month ago, in Montreal, Canada, passed away an older Chabad Chassid. He was 98 years old. There is in the Talmud, whenever they had a rabbi who lived very long, God blessed them with many years, they used to ask him, what's your secret for your long life? The question was not what kind of vitamin you're taking, or what kind of exercise you're doing, or questions like this. The question was, what is the mitzvah that you do that God blessed you with long life? What is extraordinary about you? And I want to share with you about this man. He was the director, the dean of the school and the yeshiva of Chabad in Montreal. And he was appointed to be the principal in 1953. Every year he used to bring a group of kids, teenagers, to the Rebbe for a visit in New York. The first year when he did it, 1953, he brought a group of 50 kids. And he bought a bus to New York, a bus lot to New York. And by the end of the visit, he used to get from the Rebbe a private audience, like a group. All of them came together to the Rebbe, entered the Rebbe's room, and he used to speak in front of them, give them a blessing. Then the custom is, he made a list of all the names of the kids, their name and the mother's name for a blessing. And the custom is that you give some money for charity for the blessing, that he collected from every boy $1. And he gave to the Rebbe the list of the names with the money. The Rebbe gave them a blessing, and then they all left the room, and he stayed for a continual conversation with the Rebbe. As they left, the Rebbe turns to him and he says, you collected from the boys' money? You want him to associate a blessing with money? The Rebbe was very serious about it. He says, kids should never associate a Rebbe, a real Rebbe, a righteous man, with money. A Rebbe is completely something who is disconnected from money. It's a spiritual thing. That was the first lesson that he got when he became a principal. Over the years, running a school is not easy. A day school, in a yeshiva, and in every teacher is a rabbi, and every rabbi is a maven, and everyone knows how to run to school. At one point, he had enough. He couldn't take it anymore. He boarded a train in Montreal in the morning. 12 hours later, he was in New York, in Crown Heights, in Brooklyn, in the Chabad headquarters. He came to see the Rebbe, to tell the Rebbe that he can't do it anymore. He wants to resign. The Rebbe should relieve him from the responsibility. He comes into 770, and he tells the secretary he has to see the Rebbe now, tonight. Secretary told him, what? You didn't make an appointment. There is people waiting for 6 months, for a year. You're not going in. You forget about it. He said, but I traveled 12 hours. The secretary had this many kind of requests. He was a strong and stubborn man. He told them, you're not going in, forget about it. You can go back home. He saw he has no choice. There was a way to send in a little note to the Rebbe. There was a place in the office of secretarial office. They could put a place for putting notes for the Rebbe, and they put it in twice a day, 3 times a day, whatever. He wrote a little note. He told the Rebbe, I came from Montreal. I have something very important to ask the Rebbe, and please, I need an audience. The Rebbe read the note, turned to the secretary and told him, let him in. After midnight, he walks into the Rebbe. Tells the Rebbe, listen, I am the principal for so many years, and things are getting hard, and it's so complicated. I can't take it anymore. Please relieve me from the responsibility of being a principal. I can't do it anymore. The Rebbe listens, and he tells him, and you have any idea who should take you over? Who will replace you? That he shrugged with his shoulders. He had no answer. He didn't think about it. And the Rebbe smiled, a big smile, and told him, my father-in-law once told me that after midnight is a foolish hour. That's what the Rebbe, his father-in-law, the previous Rebbe, said. But to such a foolishness, I didn't expect it to hear from you. If I would know that you're coming in to tell me this, that you want to resign, I would let you in. Go back to Montreal, continue to run the school, and you'll have much of success. This man, this Rabbi Fegelstock, ran the school for 40 years, from 1953 to 1993. And then for another 20 years, he was involved in the school, even when he stepped down from being a principal. He, as a principal, had a story that a few days ago was like on Zoom, was a shloishim, that people came together and told stories about them. And one of the teachers told a story that repeated a story that Rabbi Fegelstock, every time when he used to tell the story, he used to get very emotional. He said before he was a principal, when he was a teacher in the school, the early 50s, once it was a boy in the yeshiva, he was a troublemaker. He didn't learn, he didn't let other kids to learn. He was a bad influence. Basically, it came to a point that the whole faculty decided that there is no future for this boy in this yeshiva. You cannot do anything with him. It's just trouble. And they all knew that the days of the boys in the yeshiva are very few. And eventually he will have to be expelled. They waited for the next faculty meeting for the whole annula, everybody comes together to make decisions. And the name of the boy came up on the agenda, and they turned to every teacher to say his opinion. And every teacher said another reason why we need to expel the boy. They go around a long table, and everybody said his opinion. Then by the head of the table at that time was sitting the head of the yeshiva, an old rabbi from Europe, who was, beside his greatness in Torah, he was a very kind person, very sensitive man. Everybody loved him. In his communities in Europe, he was a rabbi, he was the most beloved rabbi. He was sitting by the head of the table, he listens to everybody's opinion, and then they turn to him to hear what he has to say. His name was Rabbi Binyamin's son. And he looks at everybody and he asks a question, that any of you prayed for this boy, said a chapter from the book of Psalms for the well-being of this boy, and shed a tear, cried for him? Any of you really cared for this boy to cry, to pray to God, maybe he should become a little better? It was silent in the room. Nobody answered. That they said, if this is the case, this boy is going to stay in the yeshiva. And they mentioned that from this boy came out a very big Chabad family of children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. He established a beautiful family. This leads us to the Parsha of this week. The Parsha of this week, Vayechi. Jacob is getting sick. He's dying. Joseph is rushing to bring his two boys, Menashe and Ephraim, the boys who grew up in Egypt, that the grandpa, Jacob, should give them a blessing before he dies. And as he brings them in, Jacob right away says, bring them to me and I will bless them. And he hugs them and he kisses them. But it's very hard for Jacob to open his eyes. And Joseph puts Menashe to his right side, to the right side of Jacob, the older one to the right side, the younger one, Ephraim, to the left side. And Jacob is about to give them a blessing. But instead of putting the right hand on the older boy and the left hand on the younger boy, he turned his hand like this and he switched it. He put the right hand on the younger boy on Ephraim and the left hand on Menashe. And he gave them a blessing. Joseph didn't like it. That he tried to move his father's hand, tried to move his father's hand. His father didn't cooperate. He didn't let it go. Then he turned and he said, Father, he's the older one. Put your right hand on his head. The father told him, I know, my son, I know. I know why I'm blessing them. Joseph tried 3 attempts to make sure that the father gives the blessing to the right hand to the older one and the left hand to the younger one, and it didn't work. Why was Jacob so insisting to put the right hand on the head of Ephraim? And there is a very interesting medrash. The medrash says that he connects this blessing to Ephraim with the future of the tribe of Ephraim. Later in Jewish history, King David came and he created a kingdom of Israel from all the 12 tribes. And after King David died, it was Solomon, famous Solomon, who expanded and strengthened the kingdom of Israel. It was amazing. When Solomon died, it was a dispute between the tribes, and they separated into two kingdoms. They broke up. It was the kingdom of Judah, the continuation of Solomon, two tribes only, Judah and Benjamin. The king was Solomon's son, Rehavam. And the rest of the tribe, 10 tribes, broke off and created their own kingdom. They're called the Northern tribe, Northern kingdom, the Southern kingdom and the Northern kingdom. And this kingdom, who was the king of this kingdom? It was Jeroboam was his name, from the tribe of Ephraim. And for the next 300 years, the tribe of Ephraim, the leaders, the kings of the 10 tribes kingdom was from the tribe of Ephraim, until it was called many times in the Bible, the kingdom of Ephraim, the kingdom of Judah and the kingdom of Ephraim. What was going on in the kingdom of Ephraim and the kingdom of the 10 tribes? They were financially very successful. It was a thriving country. The kingdom of Judah was shvach. But the kingdom of Ephraim, they were doing amazing. But spiritually, it was bad news. The king, who was a wicked king, closed the roads to Jerusalem. He didn't want any of the Jewish people, of his citizens, go to visit Jerusalem, go to the temple, and maybe spend some money in Jerusalem, maybe like the place and stay there. He closed the roads, closed the borders. Instead, he knew the Jewish people need a temple. He built 2 temples in other parts of Israel, one in Bethel and the other one in Dan. Actually, in Dan, they uncovered, they digged up, archaeologists digged up the whole center that used to be there. What he did in the centers, he put up 2 golden calves. In every center, 1 golden calf. And he encouraged the Jews, and he himself, and encouraged all the Jews to worship the golden calf. And that's what the Jewish people did for 300 years. And eventually, they were exiled. They were the first one to be exiled from Israel. And they were called, we all know them as the 10 lost tribes. Why they were lost, the lost tribes? They didn't have a GPS, what mean they were lost? Why the Jews come from Judah and Benjamin, it's us. We are descendants of the kingdom of Judah. Why we were not lost? They were lost because they were idol worshippers. They were just like any other nation. The moment they came to exile to another nation, they just joined the people. And to these tribes, after they were already exiled, there is a prophecy in the book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah went out to look for the remnants from the people of Ephraim, from the 10 tribes, to try to bring them back to Israel, back to Judaism. And he says, there is a line that he says there that we recited on the prayers and the high holidays, and it's in the Haftorah of the 2nd day of Rosh Hashanah. He says, Aben Yakir Li Ephraim, my beloved son Ephraim. He says it in the name of God, a prophecy in the name of God. My beloved son Ephraim, Im Yelet Shashuim, the child that I always play with, that brings me the most joy. Kimidei Dabri Boy, every time when I speak about him, I remember him even more. And when I think about him, my inners come out, are waking up. My kishkes go out when I think about him. And I always love him even extra. Rachem arachamenu, I have rachmones on him. And I miss him and I want him to come back. Neum Hashem, so says God. That he says, Jeremiah says in the name of God, that after all that Ephraim did, after all the bad years, idol worshiping, fighting against anything against spirituality, against God, against Judaism, God still has unconditional love to Ephraim. Who secured this unconditional love to Ephraim, says the Midrash? Jacob, by his blessing. When he gave the blessing to Ephraim, the bigger blessing, he had a feeling. The Midrash says he had the Holy Spirit came on him. Give him a special blessing. He will need it for the future. The future of Ephraim, the son of Joseph, was an amazing boy. He was a close disciple of Jacob, but he had a feeling, spiritual power, telepathy, if you want, prophecy, that one day Ephraim will go so far, they will need a blessing. Jacob showed them that there is extra love, that God loves the Jewish people, unconditional love. That the bad boy in the yeshiva, the guy who makes all the trouble, the way to deal with him is not to expel him, it's to show him more love, even more. And that's why we read this prayer on Rosh Hashanah, because we turn to God and we say, we remind God, you remember the love that you have to Ephraim? No matter who we are, please love us again. And with this love, we have to, and when we get this love from God, when we show this unconditional love to other people, when we accept everyone, no matter what it is, instead of judging them, show him more love. The more love you show, the more love God showed to us. Thank you for joining. You should have, again, a happy New Year and a good Shabbos.